It is time for you to eliminate your suffering for good. Now, what you need to understand about suffering is that most of the suffering that people experience actually happens in their mind. It doesn't actually happen in the physical world because when people feel negative emotion, it is the result of negative thinking. And what you need to understand is that the thoughts that you think leads to the emotions that you feel. And so, an easy way to determine what you're thinking is by determining what you're feeling, right? Taking a second to pause and figure out how you're feeling in this present moment. And that will tell you what you're thinking. That will tell you where your mind is at. And you see, most people, they haven't made the connection yet when that is, in fact, what's been going on, right? Think about all the times in your life, like the major moments where you've experienced, where you were worrying, where you were feeling anxious, where you were feeling these negative emotions. You will realize that they came as a result of your negative thinking. And when you worry, worrying is effectively negative imagination, because a lot of time when we worry, it's because we've created events and scenarios in our mind that hasn't happened, and in majority of cases will never happen, but yet we're experiencing the effects and we're suffering in the moment as if it happened. So we are basically putting ourselves through that event in our mind and experiencing it in real life, right? In the real world, we're experiencing it in our mind, even though it hasn't happened, and in most cases will never happen. And so when you realize that most of the suffering that people experience is self-inflicted, right? Because sometimes, right, people can have a thought of the worst case scenario, of things falling apart, of this and that. And then you realize, if you look outside, that the sun is still shining and that people are outside smiling, walking their dogs, and that everything is in fact going to be fine, right? Some people might feel as though because they didn't get their promotion at their job, that their life is falling apart and now they're not good enough. I'm here to tell you that you are good enough, that you are worthy. And if you didn't get the promotion, then maybe it's because there's probably something better lined up for you in the future. Or maybe that's not your calling, and maybe now it gives you the opportunity to now build something that you're actually going to be proud of, right? You never know how things are going to unfold for you in life. And yet, if some things may not go the way we want it to go, we'll think that everything is bad when everything is not. Everything is perfectly fine, right? If you're watching this video, chances are you have all of your basic needs met, of having food to eat, water to drink, of course, water to be able to shower, that you have a roof over your head and a comfortable place to sleep, right? That you probably have friends and family members that love you and want the best for you and look out for you, right? Chances are you have everything that you need and everything is fine. But sometimes, for even the smallest things, we might overreact and we might create this scenario in our mind of everything actually falling apart and nothing is working, when in reality everything is perfectly fine and everything is working itself out and everything is lining itself up for us to deliver us what we want, right? Everything that we desire is well on its way. See, this is so powerful because some people are conditioned either by the people around them, by their environment, by their upbringing, to think of all of the worst case scenarios, to think about everything going wrong. And when you think about all the negative thoughts and all the negative ideas, right, you are actually giving that energy. So you are actually not only attracting that into your life, but you are also experiencing it as if it already happened when it never has, right? So many times we've worried about things and then somehow, some way, it ended up resolving itself on its own. And we sort of laugh at ourselves because we was so worried and concerned that we gave it so much energy and it ended up fixing itself on its own, right? Or instances where we think worst case scenario for someone, whether it's like a loved one or friend or whatever, and then we're so worried we feel like pulling our hair out, and then we realize that everything's fine and they were okay this entire time, right? You want to make sure you are vibrating high, that you are vibrating positivity and you are happy. And if you are not feeling happy, you want to search for the thoughts that's going to help bring you there, right? Because I understand we're human, right? There's going to be times we're happy and probably not so much. But what you need to understand is that we have the power to move towards happiness because we can choose, we can freely choose whatever thought we want to think. So we can choose the thoughts that are going to best serve us rather than the thoughts that are not going to serve us, right? When we're feeling worried and anxious, we're already vibrating negative energy. So we are attracting negative things into our life because of that energy. And that does not serve you. It does not serve anyone, right? And the suffering, once again, the suffering that exists in our lives, that is negative imagination, because that's what worrying is. It's worrying about things. Worrying is when you think about things or events that hasn't happened, that most likely will never happen, but we're experiencing the pain of it, right? And when you're experiencing the pain of it, a lot of times it is emotional pain, and the emotional pain can ultimately end up manifesting into actual physical pain, right? Sometimes when, if there's ever been times where people are depressed or they're crying so much, right, because of an event that happened, their body will end up feeling weak because they cry so much because they're in so much pain, like emotional pain. And then their body will end up feeling as though it is an actual pain because of all the emotional pain that they're dealing with, right? So you're seeing how it's almost like a chain reaction, like a domino effect. It's like because of the negative thoughts, it leads to negative emotions, and then it leads to negative effects in your body and in your life. And so in order to change that, you want to be thinking positively. You want to be thinking the thoughts that serve you. If you want sort of like something to think about, it's like when something happens or when you think about anything, use your power to think about the best case scenario. Like ask yourself, what would be the best case scenario for this event or for this outcome, right? And that is what will have you begin getting excited and begin thinking positively. And of course, the emotion that you're feeling is a reflection of the thoughts that you're thinking. And so if you're feeling negative emotion, then that's a sign that you're thinking negatively and a sign for you to snap out of it and to work towards feeling better until you are feeling your absolute best, right? That is how you begin eliminating suffering. And ultimately, right, you want to get to a point, hopefully at some point, that you can eliminate it for good. And that comes with, you have to almost retrain yourself, because society, because of our environment, right, is conditioned us to think negatively, right? For most people, that's their default setting. And so you need to basically rewire yourself and begin training yourself to think positively. Train yourself to think of all the good things that can happen, of all the best case scenarios, because then that'll get you excited. Then that'll get you believing. Then that'll get you motivated to want to go out and pursue life and do the things that you want to do, rather than thinking that anytime you want to try something new, that things aren't going to work out. Or if a family member says that they're going to go on vacation, right, for you to think of all the potential bad things that might happen to the person, rather than being excited for them and thinking about how much fun they're going to have and how everything is going to work itself out, right? You need to remember that most of people's suffering happens in their mind. It doesn't actually happen in the real world. So they've created an event in their mind, a negative event in their mind, and they're experiencing it in the moment as if it happened. And so they go through life for minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, even potentially years for something that has never happened. And just think about all the time that gets wasted, that you've been feeling so bad, or you've been feeling sorry for yourself or other people, right? It ends up wasting so much time, and it ends up being wasted time and wasted energy and wasted headspace, when you could be using your mind and your power for better, right? You could be using it for something positive, so that you can create the life that you want, and so that you can be happy, because that's why we're here. We're here to experience outrageous joy. We're here to be happy. That's our purpose for existing. So if we use the power to think, and we choose thoughts that are negative, thoughts that do not serve us, they're not going to help us, and they're going to put us through pain. We're going to suffer as a result of it. So to end that suffering, you want to be aware of how you're feeling, and you want to choose the thoughts that are going to best serve you. Begin thinking about what is the best case scenario for each and every activity, each and every event. And it's almost like this idea of you, some people call it scripting when you're writing out your life, but it's almost like you thinking about the best case scenario before you do any activities. Like before you get out of your house to drive to work or to school, right? think about what would be the best case scenario for this day. That class is gonna be amazing. Everything's gonna work itself out. You're gonna meet someone amazing. You're gonna have a great meal. You're going to, right, and then you'll begin to be creating your life moment to moment, and that's how it should be, right? Sometimes when we allow our thoughts to run freely unchecked, then our vibrations all over the place. We're feeling all these different emotions because we're not in control of what we need to be in control of, which is our mind, right? When you decide to be in control of your mind, you are careful with the thoughts that you think. And if a thought that appears in your mind do not serve you, you'll stop to question it, but you'll also get rid of it. And then you'll choose a thought that will better serve you so that you can create happiness and peace and joy, right? So many times we think our life is falling apart, but then we forget that we have all of our basic needs met. And so we are beyond blessed. For most of us, we're blessed with the ability to have two legs where we can walk everywhere, right? Plenty of people don't have that luxury, right? We're blessed to be able to breathe, where we can take a deep breath and feel good. Many of us are, blessed that our body is not experiencing any sort of pain, right? We have so many things that are going so well for us, but yet so many times we ignore all of it because we think that whatever it is that we're going through in life, it's like the biggest problem, and nothing's working, everything's falling apart, when in reality everything's perfectly fine and everything's working itself out. So no need to worry, no need to stress. Trust and believe that there's a higher power working its magic and organizing your life and the events behind the scenes, right? Where your senses can't even pick it up, but you just gotta believe that everything's working itself out, that everything's gonna be fine because it always has been fine, and everything's gonna work itself out because it always has and it always will. So that wraps up the video. Enjoy the video. Do leave a like and subscribe as you're on the road to me subscribing, guys. So once again, it's Joel, and I'm out. I'll see you guys for the next video.